Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Eric Mokai. I'm the founder of Mango Capital. We try to have really interesting and engaging conversations on markets and around East Africa. So today we are privileged to have the Stima Sacco CEO. I'll allow him to introduce himself and then we can get started. Dr. Gamalin, over to you.
My name is Gamal El Hassan. I am the CEO at Stima Sacco. I like to think myself as a Kenyan, just like any other, like 48 million or so with peculiar Kenyan habits, just like every other Kenyan. I consider myself just a typical Kenyan with the same habits that other Kenyans have. Kenyans in general, we are very hardworking. That's also a reality. As you go outside the country, you'd find Kenyans working and living in so many other countries outside there, in many other positions. I'd love to think that as Kenyans, we managed to give the mighty United States of America a president that is a Kenyan. You can think about the roots of Rishi, who was the new prime minister at one time, and where he was coming from, and very many other things that we do have of Kenyans across the world who are trying to do their thing. So again, I'm just a Kenyan, just like any other. I'm lucky enough to also be the CEO at Stima Sacco, an institution that has been in existence for the last 50 years, the second largest Sacco in Africa, and soon to be the largest Sacco in Africa in a time span of less than 2 years or so. We have great strides that we are thinking that we'll be able to achieve in the next 2 years or so. And Stima Sacco is a Sacco for everyone, which is open to all Kenyans who are living and residing anywhere in the globe, and also for non-Kenyans who actually reside and legally work in Kenya. So I'm a very lucky Kenyan in that respect, and I don't take it for granted that I've been given an opportunity to lead this very great institution in the name of Stima Sacco. In a nutshell, that's who I am, family man and a Kenyan.
So perhaps you can start from the simple, because the aim of the spaces today is to take everyone from a scale of around 0 to around 7 over 10 in terms of understanding the Sacco space in Kenya, and Stima Sacco's position in that. So I should say, if you have any questions, please DM us and write them below the pinned tweets. But I'll start with maybe an engaging conversation the next 30 minutes with Dr. Gamaliel on this. So my first question to you is, what is a Sacco and how do you differentiate a Sacco from the other financial institutions in the Kenyan financial space?
Thank you very much for that question. It's a very nice place to start at. How do you differentiate a Sacco from any other institution that is outside there? So Saccos in principle are run under what we call the 7 cooperative principles. Remember, a Sacco is a savings and credit cooperative. That's what SACOS means, Sacco, savings and credit cooperative. And therefore, we all run under what is termed as the cooperative principles within Saccos. And there are 7 of them. The first one being that for you to be in a say is what you call voluntary open membership. So you voluntarily join a Sacco and you voluntarily exit one. So no one can force you to become a member of the Sacco. The second most important principle is democratic member control. So Saccos, unlike other financial institutions, are democratically controlled by members. So what does that mean? It means that every individual who's in a Sacco is an owner of the Sacco, has share capital or a shareholding within that Sacco. And in any relation with that Sacco, you're not there as a mere customer, but more as an investor and more importantly, as an owner. So you own that Sacco by virtue of having a shareholding in it. So we do not deal with non-members. We only deal with our owners who are our members. The third element is that Saccos are autonomous and independent. What does it mean? It just means that although a Sacco could have been born from a common bond, it does not mean that's where they remain. An example of Stima is in 1974, we came from Kenya Power, but it does not mean we are Kenya Power. We are very independent from them. And from the year 2010, we opened up our common bonds to every other Kenyan outside there. And that's why I said at the very initial introduction that we are open to any Kenyan anywhere in the globe. So there's an autonomy and independence between ourselves and our parent companies. And for Stima Sacco, we have more than 470 companies that we have what you call a check-off arrangement with. That is similar to what we have with the very initial company, which was Kenya Power, but there are another 469 companies that we do have a check-off arrangement with them. What point is around member economic participation. This is a very important principle for us. Now, as I've mentioned, in the Sacco sector, we deal with only members. And these members give us their investment in the form of either shareholding or in the form of savings or deposits, which we trade with. And from the fact that we trade with your money, and Saccos are very good at trading with your money, we do make an income from it. It is from that income that we're able to give you something back. And obviously, we'll have a discussion around things like dividends and interest rebates that we actually give back to our members and our owners by the virtue of having traded with their own money. The other principle that is there is cooperation amongst cooperators. That's very key. In the Sacco sector, we don't believe in competition. We believe in collaboration. So you would find that, as Stima as an example, you would find that we would be visited by very many other Saccos, not just in Kenya, but across Africa and also across the globe itself. So every other time, there are Saccos going outside there trying to learn from one another, incorporating amongst each other because you all share the same principles. Another very key element of the Saccos is the concern for the community. Now, this is close to what you've seen around ESG, the modeling that came out a few years ago. Saccos have been doing this for eons. One of the key cooperative principles is that we must be concerned for the community around us. The community is our members, physically where we are located, things to do with CSR and CSI initiatives. So that is a very strong principle of being in the Sacco sector. And the last one, which differentiates us from any other financial institution, is that the Saccos have a principle around education, training, and information. It is a requirement. It is expected of us that even as we trade with you, even as we go ahead and give you the dividends that we're providing to you, give you affordable credit facilities, over and above that, we need to educate you as a member. So the education is beyond just member education. It's about financial literacy, financial coaching, asking the hard questions of, truly, do you really need these credit facilities? Is there a way we can be able to make you grow? So training, information, pumping a lot of information as much as possible to our membership. And that truly differentiates us with the banking sector, the traditional banks. So in terms of ownership, as I've mentioned, you're not a customer, you're a shareholder. We carry out profit distribution, and that's why we pay you dividends. Unlike other financial institutions, we will only pay external shareholders, not customers, the dividends, as we pay you the dividends. Our loan accessibility, we try as very much as possible. Yes, we use credit scoring, collateral, but we also have other aspects around it. For example, looking at securing through the guarantorship model, looking at member deposits and your contributions that you do have in the Sacco. The other point is around regulation. Other financial institutions have their regulators. We in the Sacco sector are regulated by SASRA. SASRA is the Sacco Society's Regulatory Authority. I think the best way to answer this is to say, just like in the banking sector, we have CBK, the Central Bank of Kenya, that regulates them. We in the Sacco sector, they are Saccos regulated with a similar regulator called SASRA, but specifically for the Saccos itself. And the last point I would like to raise is that a primary distinction between ourselves with any other financial institution out there is that Saccos generally are about financial inclusion. It's about providing affordable credit and savings and growing. That's why we are savings and credit cooperative. So we're really good and strong at enabling you to save so that you're able to grow. Unlike other financial institutions that are there for commercial profitability. I think that distinction I have tried to paint between ourselves and other financial entities.
Perhaps now we can break down a bit on what's the essence of a Sacco? How does a Sacco make money? And how do you get your deposits? And how do you then loan to customers? Take us through that cycle of how a Sacco operates and makes money.
Saccos, first and foremost, the primary objective of a Sacco is to encourage a culture of thrift or a culture of saving and financial discipline. That is our key strength. And as I've mentioned, we are a savings and credit cooperative. So savings comes first before any other thing. Now, once you have the savings in place, then we can talk about offering affordable credit to our members and then offering an opportunity for investment for them. And like I've mentioned, to also promote a bit of financial literacy and cooperative growth amongst our members. So savings mobilization is about us being able to offer you a variety of saving products whereby we can promote regular deposits of member funds. So when you become a Sacco member, there's an expectation that you would be able to save on a monthly basis. Every month, every small amount of money you have outside there, you're able to put in that. Now, what are we encouraging here? We're encouraging thrift in this sense that if somebody today was to offer, say, 500 shillings to you, what are you going to do with that money? And how much value does 500 bob have with you? And let's even play with a small amount of figure. Let's call it 100 bob. If today somebody was to offer you 100 shillings just from nowhere as we speak right now, what do you do with that money and what value does it have to you? Saccos have learned the aspect of compounding on savings. And that's why we encourage savings on a monthly basis. Saccos like Stima actually encourage savings on a daily basis using a mobile platform, using internet banking, which is using agency banking, using a variant many ways that we're able to offer channels. You can be able to save money with Stima. And that means we are looking at, say, saving 100 shillings every day. And we encourage that. So if you have 100 bob, we'll give you a payment platform whereby you very quickly can be able to save that money using your own mobile platform. And 100 times 30 is what? 3K? 3,000 times 3 months, 9,000. And that's for 100 shillings only. So again, 3,000 times 12 is almost what? Wow, that's a lot of money. Almost 42,000 at the end of the year. And that is only coming from saving 100 shillings in a day. So what Saccos therefore are very good at doing is to encourage members to save. And we're able to offer you a myriad of savings products, be it be fixed deposits. There could be children's savings account, holiday accounts. You could be thinking about educating your children. We offer such kind of savings platforms for you, even offering kids accounts whereby you can encourage the children to also put some money with us. The beautiful thing about the Sacco sector, as I've mentioned before, is that the money that you're putting with us, the savings that you're putting with us, especially in terms of deposits, are the same ones that can later on be utilized to ask for credit. So you can ask for a 10 times multiplier, 5 times multiplier, depending on your ability actually to repay. So you're very good at mobilization, and that's how we manage to get in a lot of the liquidity that we require to actually carry out our business.
Perhaps a key question then would be, how does one become a member of a Sacco? How can I say that I'm part of Stima Sacco? What do I need to get started as a member?
So to become a member of Sacco, we are guided by the Cooperative Act and the Sacco Societies Act. There are various regulations that regulate the operations of Saccos. And of course, there are bylaws that we also subscribe to. And one of the key eligibility criteria for joining a Sacco in Kenya, you must be the age of 18 and above. And for Stima Sacco's case, whether you reside in Kenya or not, that is not relevant as long as you're a Kenyan. You could also be a corporate member. This could be a registered business, a registered institution, investment groups, locally what we know as chamas, are also able to join, including other Saccos who are also our members. Now, for the ones who are younger than 18 years, unfortunately, the law in Kenya is yet to allow individuals younger than 18 to directly become members of Saccos. However, as long as your parent is within the Sacco sector, then that parent can be able to open a children's account for you. And that's why we managed to have very young members, as young as 6 months old, who have actually joined Stima Sacco and have become members of Stima by virtue of having a kids account. In terms of registration, then a couple of things we'll ask of you. Typically proof, if you're a Kenyan, a copy of your national ID, and not just national ID, it could also be a passport. Remember, we also do have members in the diaspora. It is also now a key requirement to provide a KRA PIN certificate, and that is by law. A passport size photo will be requested from you, an application form that is available online or in our branches. And then we'll be requesting you to do just 2 or 3 things. One is to put a minimum share capital. Currently, our minimum share capital is only 500 shillings. So we'll be requesting you to put some money aside for share capital, some money aside for savings, and also a membership fee. So typically with about 2,500 shillings, you're able to separate money, which is about 500 bob, money that is going to your monthly savings, which is about 1,000 or so, and then the rest of the money, you can put that in share capital. So once you have that and you become a member by having funded those 3 accounts I've mentioned, you now can be able to open an account which is called a prime account. A prime account is typically what in a bank would be a transactional current account. So we have that. So typically remember that Saccos do everything that the banking sector does. Thing that they do, we do with the exemption maybe of 2 things. One, we don't directly trade in foreign exchange. And number 2, we do not have direct access to the national payment system. But when it comes to things like having a current account or a transactional account, you're able to have one and operate it so that you can have an ATM card that you can utilize In addition to that, you're able to process your salary through that Prime account, process your loans, and of course, the dividend disbursements that come with it. And then in addition to that, once you have those are the three main accounts. A deposit account whereby you can make monthly contribution. Remember, from this deposit account to the monthly contribution, this will later act as a security for loans that you're going to be provided with. And number two, this money, because as I've mentioned earlier, we're utilizing your money to trade with, the same money that we provide interest rebate to on an annual basis. Then the second bit is a share capital that gives you the holding into the Sacco. It's non-withdrawable, non-refundable, but you're able to transfer it upon exit. And this is what earns dividends for you every year. And that also is proof that you're a member of the Sacco. And the last account, which I've mentioned, is the transactional account, what is called the Prime account, that allows for salary processing and for you to do your day-to-day business, including having things like a checkbook that you can be able to utilize. So once you have that, you're already a member of the Sacco. And from there on, we can open for you the other array or the bouquet of savings products that we do have, which are quite many, including holding a fixed deposit account, holding a children education account. And then from there, you're now able to get access to the loan products and every other service around our mobile platform, our internet banking, and also the agency platforms that we do have.
Next step is, what products can I access? What are some of the benefits I can access once I am a member? What are some of the things specifically that Stima Sacco offers that I can tap into? And at the same time, a good friend of mine is really wondering what these interest rebates are. So perhaps you can expand on that a little bit.
So let me start with the latter, which is the aspect of the interest rebates. Let's dial back. For you to become a member of a Sacco, you need to have ownership, and therefore you're required to have a share capital. In Stima Sacco, the minimum share capital is only 500 bob. I think the highest individual who has shares in Stima has about 37 million shillings. That's the highest shareholder. The second bit is that you must have deposits. This deposit is what internally we call alpha deposits. These are the monthly savings that are required of you by virtue of being a Sacco member. It's the example I gave of putting aside 100 bob every day and probably putting 3,000 shillings every month and 2,000 at the end of the year. That amount could be anything. It could be an amount of 1,000 bob. There are those who put 10,000 shillings, 100,000, million bob. It depends on your ability and how you've managed to grow yourselves over the years. So these two earn a return from the Sacco. So the shares, the minimum being 500. And like I've mentioned, the maximum shareholder currently in Stima is about 37 million. These individuals earn what is called a dividend. And for the last 5 or 6 years in a row, Stima Sacco has been giving a return of 15% on these shareholding. That's the first bit. The second bit, you have the monthly deposits. Remember that daily 100 bob I've talked about? That translates to a monthly savings for you. So by virtue that you give us your money, your hard-earned money, every month you dedicate yourself, you make sure you say, no, whatever 100 bob or 20 bob I have per day, I'm putting it aside religiously for the Sacco and for my own personal savings, then surely you deserve something back for it. And unlike putting this money, say, in a typical account, a bank account or a savings account, this money we are actively trading with every day. And we are using this money to give other people loans. It's your money that you are trading with so that another person can come to the Sacco and get a loan or a facility. And we make profit from that. So if you're making profit from that, again, surely, then you do deserve to be paid something from it. So because we've traded in your money for a period of 1 year, then at the end of every year, just like you have put a share capital for ownership and you pay you a dividend for it, we also give you a return on the deposits. And this return is what we call interest rebates. And typically for Stima Sacco, again, for the last 5 years or so, we have been giving a return of 11% per annum on this one. Now, a very important thing as well, just to wrap up on this issue of interest rebates and dividends, for the Sacco sector, and why it's so important for you to be a member of a Sacco if you're not, is the fact that when it comes to the aspect of dividend and interest rebates, and by law, and because, as I've mentioned, we are only trading not for profit, but we're trading with our own members, then because it's the same money that you've used to trade with, what the government through regulation and through various acts within the Income Tax Act, you are only charged a final withholding tax of 5%, both on your dividends and your interest rebates. And for that is a very key reason of why ideally you should actually have your savings in a Sacco. So the second question was around the kind of products you have. So again, remember, if you're to walk to any financial institution, if you're to walk to any fintech, provide you various services. We offer all of those services. So let's start with the fintech. If you're looking for a mobile loan, you should be able to get that from Stima Sacco or most of the Saccos that are outside there. Number two, if you're looking to trade, to operate your prime account, your transactional account, again, we're able to do that by virtue that you already have a mobile platform on board. We have internet banking. As I've mentioned, we have a checking account, so you can get a checkbook from our site. You can get an ATM, and an ATM that is branded as a Stima Sacco ATM. Visa branded, meaning you can use it anywhere in the world, anywhere in the globe. As long as that ATM, whether in America, in Europe, in China, wherever it is that you are, you'd be able to put that ATM card into an ATM, which is Visa branded, and you'll be able to check your account, remove funds, deposit funds, irrespective of where you are. So that's a very key service that you offer in terms of having a current account, which is your transactional day-to-day account. The second bit is, remember the deposit account we talked about. This deposit account is important, very critical. Actually, it is the basic aspect of being in a Sacco. It is the account that every month as you save, you will finally come back and say, okay, hold on. I put in 100 every day. In 30 days, that is 3K. In about 3 months, I put 9,000 shillings with you. You can come to the Sacco and say, hold on, I need money. I need financing at a very affordable rate. And we will apply what is called a multiplier on that. And the multiplier can be anywhere from ×2 up to, we have a facility that goes 10 times, which means potentially you could get a loan that is either 3 times of this amount, 9,000 times 3 is 27K, and potentially you could get a loan facility at 9,000 times 10, which is 90,000 shillings. So we are using that as a basis of security for lending to you. This is important, again, because many people might not have a collateral to offer us. Yes, if you have a car and a house, you can be able to take that as part of your collateral, but very many other people might not necessarily have that. And probably they'll say, can I use the savings I'm putting in the Sacco to borrow some money from it? So that therefore opens you up to a variety of very many products that you have around loans. So development loans, very key. These are long-term financing for you, whereby we look at the savings that you've put in the Sacco itself in terms of the deposits, and then of course offer your multiplier, and you can be able to buy stuff with this. You can buy land, you can construct. If you have a business, you can be able to expand with it. We'd be able to offer you things like an emergency loan. So this is whereby you have an emergency. Maybe it could be school fees. We actually have a school fees loan for that. It could be emergency in the sense of you have a medical emergency. It could be rent that is due. You're buying something and it's from an emergency perspective, you're able to provide that to you. We offer things like asset financing. So if you're purchasing vehicles, machinery, and other assets. And the beautiful thing about asset financing, we utilize the asset itself as the collateral. So the asset that you're buying, the vehicle, is the one that will be utilized as a security for getting that particular vehicle. We also offer things like affordable mortgage. Stima Sacco was amongst the first Sacco that joined what is called the Kenya Mortgage and Finance Company. We are able to give you loans as a low rate of 9% on a reducing balance for up to 20 to 25 years. So that's very key. Mobile loans, I've talked about that. And for Stima, we're also unique. We also have Islamic financing. We have our flagship product called the Yasar line of business. These are Sharia compliant financing options. And this is for those who profess not just the Muslim faith, but also are looking for an alternative way of banking. So we're able to provide them our Yasar suite of products to enable them get the financing solutions that they require. Additional services that we have around insurance. We do have an Empower Insurance Agency. We are converting this to a brokerage. It offers things like life, motor, and business insurance. For those who love playing golf, we can also cover you for golf insurance in case you hit the ball and hit a car or hit something. If where you have a house, you're able to provide insurance for your house in case there's fire or any other calamity that actually comes about. And I've already mentioned around our mobile banking platform. We do have two mobile platforms. One is called Stima and one is called Empower. We do this so that in case one is down, the member will always have 24/7 access on the other mobile platform. And from there, you're also able to get mobile loans. And that's why I said whatever fintech is offering, you're also able to offer, including having access to savings and also having access to transferring money. For example, you can utilize PesaLink and transfer up to 999,999, or 1 shilling less than a million bob. You're able to do that from the comfort of your own phone. If you have debts that you need to pay, you're also able to carry out instructions using PesaLink to actually transfer the money. Maybe the last point would be around internet banking. We also offer convenient online banking. We do appreciate that our members, and Kenya in particular is a tech savannah, is a silicon savannah. And we appreciate that our members may not necessarily want to come physically to visit us. We do have 12 branches across the country and about 85 agents. But we also appreciate that members may not necessarily want to physically visit these locations I've mentioned. And therefore, because of that, we have conveniently provided for them an online banking platform whereby they can do everything else that they probably would have done by visiting us across the branches. And of course, I've mentioned about our agency banking, whereby we have what is called Stima Mlangoni. Our idea is that the moment you open the door, you should be able to see Stima Sacco Mlangoni. So the door of your office, the door of your house. As you walk out of your house or your office, we would love a day whereby Stima Sacco will actually be there. So our agency banking, our own agency banking platform is very critical. And of course, and lastly, and maybe finally, we do offer other services, seamless processing of salaries and allowance. For those who are listening, your salary, your thano, you have something called Sanocha. Charako inapita through Stima Sacco. It doesn't need to go to any other financial institution. If you're looking for advances, salary advances, then you're able to get that. If your allowances are being paid, then you're able to utilize that. And remember, I've spoken about a transactional account. So Msharako Ikija, it means on a daily basis, you can put aside and allocate and say, this amount of money will go to my shares. This amount of money I'm taking into deposits. This amount of money ni ya kupatia mwili pole, so you put it in the transactional account. And that's the kind of money that probably you'd be utilizing on a daily basis to carry out whatever needs that you do have. Quite a lot. I hope I've managed to address the question that has been raised.
Yes, you've addressed as many questions as possible. So I'll give you a short break and I'll invite the audience a bit to come in with the questions. I see a couple of questions already come in. And I'll forward them to Gamaliel very soon. In the meantime, I just want to remind you how you can send in your questions. You can DM us, and then you can also, just below the pinned tweet, you can just write a couple of questions in there. So you're dissecting what a Sacco is and specifically Stima Sacco. We had plans to go for an hour, but it seems like a very engaging conversation. So we may go over slightly. I just want to go back a little bit, Gamaliel, to the issue of rebates versus dividends. Every end of a financial year, you find all these Saccos, they're all giving different rates of dividends. Someone would be maybe tempted to go to other Saccos where it's been giving a bit more higher dividend and all. What's your take on what causes all these variances in terms of dividend payments, interest rates, rebates also differ? What are some of the things that affect this too? And then we'll go on to financials after that.
All right, wonderful. That's also a very good question, and thank you for that. Okay, let's be honest. Every year, there's a World Cup, Super Bowl, if you like, the other football. But there's a World Cup of AGMs, of dividends being paid out, and there's a lot of excitement within the whole sector. There are a lot of queues you'll see around banking halls and across many other Saccos as well. And a lot of non-members normally would not understand what is this hula baloo all about. It's really about the principle of member economic empowerment, whereby we try as much as possible to give back a fair amount from the profits that you're making. Is it fair to make 100 bob and keep the whole 100 shillings? Absolutely not. So we put aside some money in terms of operational capex, our operational expenditure, our capital expenditure, some money aside for a rainy day. We put aside the big chunk of it, however, goes back to our members. More than 40%, 45% of the money that we earn as a profit, we actually pay back our membership. And that is across many Saccos as well. The issue of dividends and rebates and the kind of variances we see in the industry is completely dependent on how individual Saccos have performed. Again, the dividends and rebates are being paid from the profits that we're making. So if you're profitable as an institution, it means you're able to sustain and provide higher rates the members that you do have. The only caution I'll throw out, which I always do, is to state that you always do your due diligence in terms of the Saccos you're joining. Number one, are these Saccos regulated by SASCA? That's very key. So I always encourage that you join Saccos and be part of the Saccos that are regulated. So we have what are called deposit-taking Saccos, and others are called non-withdrawable deposit-taking Saccos. So these are regulated. There are about 180 of each, which brings about 360 Saccos in Kenya that are actually regulated. So even as you look at what is being given to you as a return, the first question you should always ask yourself is, the place I've put my money, is the money safe? So return is secondary. The first key, you have given money to somebody. You have given a principal amount to somebody. Can that principal sum be guaranteed that if you need it, you're going to have it? So number one, is the money safe? Number two, if I want my money back, am I going to get it? Number three, is the money accessible? And then lastly, let's talk about the aspect of return. Obviously, and this goes without saying, if the return is too good, normally think twice. If somebody is offering you a return of 30%, ask them, what are you trading in to give you such a return? The variances that occur is basically just about the individual Saccos looking at how much money have they generated and asking hard questions internally, then how much can we give back to our membership? What is a fair assessment in terms that I've been trading with you, you've been my partner. As I've mentioned, I'm dealing with you as an owner. The Sacco is not looking at you as a mere customer who is to be milked dry, and then after that, we make profits and stay with the profits. No, we are dealing with you from the very beginning as an owner. You're the boss of this institution. You're the boss of the Sacco. So as the boss and as the owner, as the shareholder, what is a fair due back to you? And obviously, every Sacco would have a different thought around it. But as I've said, it all depends on the bottom line. How much revenue have you generated? And therefore, how much revenue are you willing to share? So for Stima, we have been very consistent in the last 5 years. We've given a return, as I've mentioned, of 15% on the dividends without fail, paid the same day, and 11% return on the interest rebate, which are the deposits. Again, paid the very same day. We'll keep on reviewing this. I know there are discussions internally. We'll keep on having that. The discussions of, is this a fair assessment? Let's look at the kind of business that's generated. Are we able to pay more? But luckily, in the last 5 years or so, we've been able to pay the same rate. And we're waiting for our AGM to come. So without busting the bubble, I don't want to get anyone excited, but there are good things coming up as we approach the AGM. But importantly for Stima, we have been in existence for the last 50 years. We need to ensure that whatever we provide to our members is sustainable, and we shall be here for another 50 years to come. So for us, that's also very key as we look at things and as we go into that discussion on financials. We'll be talking about the kind of ratios that you're expected to keep, just like the banking sector is supposed to keep, just like CBK is demanding very strongly from the banks. What is it that they're putting aside for a rainy day? Also, we in the Sacco sector, through SASRA, is a very tough regulator and asks very tough questions. Are we being sustainable in the kind of rewards that we're giving back to our membership? I hope I have managed to answer that.
Yes, but you've also introduced some interesting aspects that people should definitely pay attention to. I think it's just generally in financial markets, don't always chase the highest return. It's not always guaranteed that you will get those returns at the end. High returns also come with high risk at the end of the day. So good to pay attention to that. But then again, as a side note, perhaps a few weeks ago, the regulator, also I think cooperatives CS was also complaining about some Saccos borrowing money to actually pay dividends. Do you have any comments on that? I know it may not be applying specifically to you, but just a general comment.
Yes, I do have a comment, and no, it doesn't apply to Stima Sacco. We do not borrow to pay dividends. We pay dividends purely from our reserves and the profits that we've made, which is the right thing to do. So if you've made a profit at the end of the year, remember interest rebate is an expenditure item, so it is purely paid from your top lines as part of the expenditure. And at the end result, you must have made an income from it. And then dividends is now paid as part of the reserves, whatever we put aside in terms of our net profit after income tax and the like. We do not, and we have never paid off from borrowing. It's a bad habit. In fact, it's an unsafe habit. And I do 100% agree with the comments of the cabinet secretary. And I think guidelines have been issued out that Saccos that do not have money to pay out either interest or dividends, then they should not borrow to actually do that. That is digging a hole. At what rate would you be borrowing from a financial institution like a bank? Look at the bank rates currently. You're talking at a rate of between 20 and 24% in the banking sector. So if you're borrowing at 20 to 24%, borrowing this money, what is that income that you're generating that is above 24% for you to start declaring a dividend payout to a member? So for Stima, we don't borrow. We only borrow strategically. The only borrowing we have is a very small amount of money. And that is because of what I mentioned, the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. They lend to us at very low rates, single-digit rates. This money is coming from the World Bank and is coming from the IFC. And from there, we're able to offer a single-digit loan. So we're offering a loan of 9% to 9.5% on a reducing balance with that duration of time. That's the only borrowing we have. It's a very strategic borrowing, but no other. If anything, the amount of money that Stima Sacco keeps in the banking sector is way more than any amount that you can potentially borrow. So at the end of every quarter, we have a lot of the banks that actually knocking at our doors because we do have the highest liquidity ratio in the industry. I think we closed at above 90% last year. That's on liquidity ratio. And liquidity that is required is about 15% or so. So for Saccos like Stima, that has never been an issue. But just to answer your question is I do agree with the CS. Saccos should never borrow to be able to pay dividends.
I second that. And I think it's a serious red flag for someone to be borrowing to pay dividends. The borrowing, as you say, at 20 to 30% to pay something at 12%. So I don't think it's worthwhile. But back to you again. In terms of loans and loans eligibility, I want to tackle that one for maybe we tackle a few questions from the audience. I should say this is one of the very highly attended spaces, and we have a lot of questions for you today. We may need to schedule another spaces at another point in time to tackle as many questions as possible. There's a lot of interest in Saccos generally, and Stima Sacco specifically. So it's very good that you keep handling members' questions and those who are interested in this space. So back to you. How do I take a loan from Stima Sacco once I become a member? How long do I need? What are some of the eligibility criteria? I've had the issue of guarantors. How many do I need there? Yes. So maybe you can handle that for us.
Typically, there are a couple of things that we look at in terms of eligibility. Let us just start with lending. Lending is about knowing your customer, knowing your member, is about how long you have known one another so that we're able to lend to you. So typically, what we here in Stima Sacco is that you must have been an active member of the Sacco for a period of at least 3 months if you are an individual member. So we need to know each other for 3 months, typically so that we can see what kind of money are you putting into the Sacco, what are your needs and the like. And for corporate, these are for chamas and companies and groups. This we normally ask them that they need to be with us for at least 6 months as a corporate member. Additionally, we do request that you fulfill some very specific requirements of the loans. Now, the first one, remember, we started by saying we are a savings and credit cooperative, and we have the member deposit and the shares. So you must be a person in good standing as far as the share capital is concerned, as far as the deposits are concerned. So the deposits, typically, you can borrow between 3 to 5 times, but like I've mentioned, we do have loans that go up to 10 times. So that becomes a very key motivation for you to save on a monthly basis. We look at how much share capital you have with us. Depending on the level of share capital, you might access some non-products. There are others where you might ask you to add a bit on your share capital. But typically, we utilize the member's deposit as a multiplier. The second bit, we also look at the debt to income ratio. This is very key. And it's the law in Kenya that you cannot exceed. And this was a guideline by CBK that was actually incorporated also by our regulator being SASRA. And this guideline is very simple. When you look at the monthly loan installments that you're making currently, it cannot go beyond 2/3 of your net income. So you must go home with something. This is what we call a third rule. So 1/3 of whatever net money you have, that money, you need to go home with it. So even as we look at you, therefore, we look at that debt to income ratio, and we need to demonstrate that we are not overburdening you. Because remember, we're not in the business of profits. We're in the business of giving you accessible loans. So we are looking at ensuring that you do not end up overborrowing. So that's 1/3. That's the purpose of that, to ensure that you do not end up, for lack of a better word, umejinyonga na loans kabisa. So you need to breathe. Even as you're paying off your loans, you must have something that you're able to take back home for your own need. The other element is around proof of income. That's still under the debt to income ratio, under this repayment ability. So we look at things like your pay slips. If your money is passing through the Sacco, we just be able to look at how your salary is coming in. If you have a business, we look at things like your business statements. We look at contracts, if you have contracts. If, say, you have a building, we'd look at how much income is coming from the rent that is actually coming about. All of this is to demonstrate the ability that you have to repay the loan within the agreed period. And we're there to advise you. We're here as your financial coach. It's not about just lending to you, but really asking the hard questions. Do you truly need to even borrow this money? Is there a better facility for you to have than the ones that are there? Then comes the issue of security. There are two kinds of security. For Saccos, typically you have guarantorship. The guarantorship model is a very simple one. Is whereby you look for, say, 5 to 7 people, depending on the kind of loan that you have. And these people know you, they are members of the Sacco, and they're able to guarantee you because typically you might not have a security that you can utilize. So people always ask me, but hey, you have an open bond. It's very easy to say if you're working in a company and people in that company and there's people in this company and members of the Sacco and therefore they co-guarantee one another. I totally agree on that. But there are many other things you also look at. There is also self-guarantee, whereby depending on the amount of money you have, you can utilize up to 90% of that to guarantee yourself so that you're utilizing your deposits to guarantee a loan that you're taking. Typically, a normal loan is 12%. Remember, I mentioned we give out 11% for those deposits that you're having with us. The effective rate is about 1% or so, because still you're using the same money that you are guaranteeing the payment of 11% or so to give a loan of 12%. So if you do the difference, then it is only the difference of money between what we're paying you and what you're borrowing that you're actually paying out. So apart from that, there are other elements regarding guarantors, like I've mentioned, but also collateral. Those secured loans. You see all these adverts, people saying asset financing, mortgages, they require collateral. So if you have land, if you have a vehicle, if you have fixed deposits somewhere, if you have money in the bonds, all of that you're able to utilize as a security to actually give you a loan if you want to move away from the utilization of the guarantorship model. Also importantly is about your credit history. This is a big thing. If you're a member with a positive repayment record, you're most likely to get high amounts. It's not that we don't give to those who are negatively listed. Those, yes, they might face rejection, but at one point in time, somebody could have been negatively listed. But as long as you have corrected that, then you can still come back and be able to get a facility. Or even if you're negatively listed, then probably would ask you to bring in additional security, because you're not here to reject people just because one time something could have happened to you, could have lost your job, your income could have reduced. So you should not be punished for having at least once in your life defaulted in a facility. And the last point is about, are you a regular saver? Are you regularly contributing? If you look at your transaction history, that in itself enables us to quickly judge what kind of loan to actually provide to you. The kind of loan products, like I've mentioned, there are very many. You have business loans, you have development loans, you have mobile loans. Mobile loans do not necessarily go through all I've mentioned. Mobile loans, typically within 2 minutes or a minute or less, if you qualify less than a minute or so, you should be able to go to our Empower Loan platform, get a loan product that is either a day-based loan. We have those. We have a loan called Funika. It's a day-based loan. Tunasema ni kufunika aibu. So for example, gas imepotea kwa nyumba, gas, there's no money to buy the gas. Ama ni stima imekatwa, hakuna pesa ya kulipa hiyo stima. Very quickly, you can be able to say, can I funika hii aibu kidogo tu, so that I'm able to actually do what needs to be done. And immediately, you're able to be given a loan, even when your account does not have any money, your prime account does not have any money. Apart from that, we do have other day-based loans, monthly loans, 1 month, 2 months, 3, and the rates range between 4 to 7%, up to 6 months. Again, these are meant to be emergency loans. Please note that. These loans are not meant to be loans that are typically your main source of funding. They're supposed to be emergency loan. A mobile loan, you could have been involved in an accident somewhere, ama kuna mgonjwa mahali, then you're seeking a loan. We can be able to provide up to 120,000 as an emergency facility for you to actually utilize. But those as I've mentioned, do not typically require either a guarantor, they do not require security. They only require the behavioral trend that you see of you as a member in terms of how much deposit have you put with us and how often have you been utilizing the services that you do have. So we have a scoring criteria or a scoring tool that you're able to use for that.
Really positive feedback I'm receiving on Saccos and specifically Stima Saccos. So someone has said members sometimes they disappear from Saccos, they're no, and then they're left bearing the burden. How do you mitigate that? Any advice from your many years in the Sacco business on how to work out that also in terms of loans so that you don't get penalties and all those kind of things? How do you manage that as a Sacco? So how do you work with a member once the issues they face in terms of repayments?
One thing that we need to advise any of our members, do not guarantee somebody you do not know. That's number one. No one should ever bring you a form and say, you know what, I know somebody somewhere and he needs a guarantee for any reason, whether it is an inducement to actually guarantee that person. No. And not just that. If, say, people around you have a bad character, do not guarantee them. If you know that, and let me use an officer, if you know there is an individual in the office that is known to borrow from any other person around and he never repays, then this is the person who comes to you and says, can you guarantee me? Please say no. You have the power of saying no. You should never be forced to guarantee at all. No one should use their position to say, probably I'm your boss, then guarantee me, and you go ahead and guarantee them. That is wrong. If somebody akona mkono mrefu na amepatikana kwa scandal huku na kule, then that person already, you need to do your own KYC on them. Say no, don't guarantee that. So guarantee is not an obligation. You're not obligated to guarantee anyone. Absolutely not. Only guarantee the people that you know very well. You know where to find them, probably their families, something about them, their character. Because guarantorship is about character. And guarantorship is a good model. It's a good model because, especially for the young people, when you're still young, you have not bought a car, you don't have a house, you have no collateral to give. So how do you expect these people to borrow from us? They can only borrow if they can come together within a safe environment of having identified one another and saying, you know what, I can co-guarantee for this person. But also guarantee something that you're willing to lose. Don't forget, and that's correct as the member has actually said, if there's a default, you'd be expected to pay that loan, a portion of that loan. So if the 5 of you guaranteed somebody, one loan is taken 100K, all of you are severally liable to pay off that facility. And therefore, you need to ask yourself, am I willing to lose this amount of money that this person is actually borrowing? So ask those hard questions before you seek for a guarantor. The model is not bad at all. I have seen families that have grown on the guarantorship model. The patriarch joins. The patriarch introduces the matriarch into the circle. The matriarch introduces the children. The children have married. They have their own spouses. All of them come together and say, you know what, at least I know this is either my parent, I know this is my sibling, I know this person, and I can be able to guarantee them. And they're able to co-guarantee one another without security. And I've seen them grow themselves and do marvelous things and marvelous investment. So the model is a good model. However, it has a couple of weaknesses. And one of the weaknesses, if you end up guaranteeing somebody who, and like I've said, in terms of their habit, in terms of who they are, these are people who are ready in terms of knowing them. You know that this person is not going to pay. Please do not guarantee. You're better off coming in and saying, I'd rather self-guarantee myself, or I'd rather hustle and I utilize either securities, the small securities I do have, you can be able to look at them, whichever securities that you do have, or better still, I'd rather save some money, and then from the savings, I tend to think I can be able to utilize that to be able to either grow myself directly from the kind of earnings I'm making. The only thing that I keep on insisting that you need to walk that journey of typically starting from yourself, of knowing the people you're guaranteeing. And as I've mentioned, the moment they default, definitely indeed, you'll be liable for the payment of those loans. Having said that though, we do have a responsibility as a Sacco, and our responsibilities are many. Number one, we will go after the initial principal owner to make sure that they pay off this loan. We have debt collectors who will go after this principal owner. We have a panel of more than 40 debt collectors. Their role is to go after that and to find out why aren't these people actually paying. We do send reminders via SMS. We make calls, we make emails. We can even be able to go back to this principal person just to find out why are they being delinquent. Are we able to have a structured recovery process from them so that we're able to minimize defaults, including requesting them to come to us to restructure some of their facilities? And we've done this before. And I remember during the COVID era, we gave a moratorium, I remember, of interest and principal of more than $1 billion Kenya shillings, just to enable people to be able to restructure so that you can be able to reduce their financial hardship, whereby they can be able to renegotiate the repayment terms, extend the loan tenures, and maybe perhaps also reduce monthly payments. So if you're the principal who was actually defaulting, there are options for you. You can be able to come back to us and have a discussion before we end up going after the guarantors. And mostly importantly for us is that we also list defaulters on the credit reference bureau. What that means is until and when this person, the principal borrower, has actually paid back the money, they'll always be listed on the CRP so that we do not have a scenario whereby the guarantors have paid off the money, but somebody is living large outside there with their money. Having them listed actually assists us to make sure that they're able to pay. But importantly, because you're a Sacco, and like I've mentioned, ours is about empowering, it's about financial coaching, financial education, financial inclusivity. We are looking at having and encouraging a very positive loan repayment culture. So how can we encourage and how can we educate you to become financially sustainable and to encourage you to responsibly borrow by offering you very realistic loan limits? So if you don't qualify, don't take it badly. Probably it's because we're looking at where you are and saying, is this really sustainable for yourself? We also offer you financial counseling. You can come to any of our branches. We'll have a discussion around you wherever you have membership. You're facing difficulty in terms of paying. And of course, we'll reward you. If you're a good borrower, you get better loan terms. And of course, pastor approvals as well. So it is something that we keep on maintaining. It is a requirement to have a healthy loan book on our site, but also importantly, it's important for us to engage with our members and ensure that we also mitigate them from unnecessary borrowing so that they can be able to grow into something better.
We've extensively covered as many topics as possible, so I want to switch a bit to a few questions that I've received. One is on the persistently niggling issue, which is exiting Saccos and how it's difficult sometimes to transfer. One person here says they belong to a different Sacco. Now they are Stima Sacco, but they belong to a different Sacco. But when they left and withdrew their deposits, the shares are still stuck there. And if they have to sell, they have to sell a very steep discount. So he's wishing there was a system to transfer shares across Saccos at par value. What do you make of that? I know there have been a couple of propositions. What's the state in the industry currently in terms of transferring shares?
That's a very good question that has been put forward. And I hear and I feel the member. Typically, let's go back to the very beginning. There has to be disclosure by every Sacco when you join the Sacco. There are two very important disclosures. Disclosure number one, your shares are not refundable, but they are transferable. So if you have shares in a Sacco, correctly as stated, those shares, you cannot come and say, refund me the shares. Those shares will always be part and parcel of the share capital of that Sacco. And that is by law and by regulation. However, those shares can be transferred. So you can opt to do two things. You can decide, number one, these shares that I do have, and I've seen that a lot with our members, a member would put 10 million, 20 million, 25 million in share capital, but they know very well at the tail end of it, that money is not going to be refunded to them. What's going to happen is twofold. Firstly, if you have to look at, for example, Stima Sacco giving a return of 15% every financial year. If you have to take a calculator and you can calculate how many years does it take you to get back your principal money. So about 6.5 years. By 6.5 years, you have received back the money that you invested in the Sacco. And moving forward, and I do have members who have been with us for up to 50 years, it means you continue enjoying that. And for the members who have done this, they do this almost like a pension. It's whereby you're saying, I'm keeping money aside very long term. It's money that I know I'm being forced to save in the Sacco. I will not get this money refunded. However, I am keeping it as a pension so that by the time I turn 50 or 60 years of age, I have money that can be able to push me forward for another 50 years. And you know what happens in Kenya? The moment kazi inaisha, you have got nothing. If you can just look at the lifespan of a majority of Kenyans who have left employment. And this is what we're trying to cure by saying, therefore, you can use the Sacco as a pension scheme whereby every year you're going to get your money in terms of a return, a paycheck in terms of the dividends. So correctly stated, in no Sacco in Kenya are you going to be refunded back your shares, because the shares are there as a long-term investment in the Sacco. However, you can choose to say, in case, God forbid, I do pass away, these are the shares that I will bequeath my kids. I have seen others, after investing so much for so many years, before they have actually passed away, they have distributed a portion of their shares to their children, to their wives, to their mothers, you name it. The best thing you can give somebody is an ability to make income. You don't want to be giving handouts to people. You want to show somebody how to make money. The best thing is to showcase to people how money can work for you. And the share capital is a classic example of that. We in the Sacco work, we pay you a dividend, and that is like the income that you'll be getting from it. These shares, therefore, by law, are not, again, I'm repeating, are not refundable, but you can transfer them. You can also opt to sell them. Saccos like Stima, we have what is called the OTC. It's over the trading platform. You can walk into any of our branches, and from there, you can be able to provide the shares that you either want to buy or to sell. So we have a ready market for that. You have individuals who are willing to sell shares, individuals who are willing to buy shares. I must confess that before we did the OTC, these shares were being sold at even 50% discount, 45%, 65% discount. But since we put the OTC in place, I feel the discount rate is about 3 to 5%. So if your share was worth 100 bob, probably you could sell it at 95 bob, 98 bob. It depends with the willing buyer and the willing seller. But at least it's not bad off, because like I've mentioned, you'd have earned some of this money in terms of the returns that you've given you. The second disclosure is on the deposits that I've talked about, the monthly deposits. Those monthly deposits are indeed withdrawable. You can be able to withdraw them. However, there's a catch around it. By law, you can withdraw them by giving a 60-day notice. So you give 60 days notice and say, I'm withdrawing, and within 60 days, you must get your money back. In Stima, we normally give even before the 60 days have actually expired. And we also have a way whereby if you want this money immediately, for a very small fee, there's a charge that will be given to you, and immediately you can be able to get this money. And at no time have we had a scenario that we've never transferred money back to where it's supposed to be given. For those, unfortunately, who may exit for whatever reason, the exit could be kazi imeisha, job imeisha, or maybe you've gotten a green card. Okay, I don't know if the new term, how that's going to be, but I have people who have been able to leave the country, and they're saying, I don't want to continue. Although we do tell them to continue being our members, because you do have a lot of members in the diaspora, but there could be myriads of issues why you need this money back. At Stima Sacco, you always get your money. Now, from a Sacco perspective, we are not there yet. We would have wished to have a platform whereby you can transfer money from one Sacco to another. But I need also to confess to you and the listeners that there's a lot of pushback that is also happening. I think the pushback is because we are a large Sacco, very large. Our asset base is more than 66 billion in size. There's a genuine fear that if a trading platform was put, probably bigger Saccos like ours might be able to benefit at the expense of the smaller Saccos. So there's a lot of education probably that needs to be done, especially around the small Saccos, so that they do not fear having a trading platform. And also in terms of law, there's no regulation around so far. Unlike the shares that you might have on the Nairobi Security Exchange, there's no platform currently that you do have that you can be able to trade with one another. But we are hopeful that in future we can be able to have that. But in the short run, for we in Stima Sacco is to ensure that our over-the-counter trading platform is automated. We're in the process of actually doing that. It's one of our key deliverables in a new strategy for the next 5 years. And we are hoping to make it just easier for you as a member to be able to gain access to your share capital and also to gain access to your deposits.
Now, maybe just quickly give us a brief overview of how financials for Saccos look like. Typically yours, I know yours, the FY24 results should be out soon. If they're not out, I think closer to the AGM, which is around 5th March, if I remember that correctly. That's when the results should be out. But perhaps based on some of the recent numbers that you have, I know the asset base is around 60 billion. I think that's almost the new regulations from CBK on banks is that the core capital needs to be around 10 billion. And comparing it to your asset base alone, that's almost 6x. You guys are quite big as an institution, I would say. So in that regard, take us maybe through a few numbers that's maybe top of your head about Stima Sacco and how big you are.
I cannot disclose much because, like you correctly stated, there's an AGM coming, I think by around just March 14th. Still discussions internally when the AGM is going to be. maybe earlier than that. So we're looking at the modalities and the requirements from the regulator that need to be adhered to. But I can generally say this. Number one, we had a budget for the year, and we managed to surpass our budget, total assets. We have budgeted for 66 billion in asset base. We have surpassed the target that we put. We had a target of income of about 9.9 billion shillings. That we've also surpassed it. We had a target of retained earnings. We have way surpassed that as well. In terms of all the key indices, including the share capital, we've actually surpassed all our targets. So it's been a good year in the Sacco. We've had a very, very good run for the year. It's not been an easy year if you have to do the macro environment. But when you look at our revenue stream, currently 78% of that revenue stream is derived from interest income, that is the loans that you're giving out. We have more than 18% of that, whereby we've managed to get money from investment income. We do have insurance, I've talked about 2.3% of that comes from actually insurance income, and the rest is a transactional income. So on all of those indices, we have done very well. It's been a good year and a good run for the institution. In the last 5 years, generally, have been good. Even when you look back from the time of COVID. In the COVID year, we almost met our targets. I think we are off maybe 3 or 4%. But post-COVID, in the year 2023, in the year 2024, we're seeing a very vibrant institution. Now, let's talk about two maybe key things I'd like to point out. The first one is generally around what we mentioned, which is the aspect of core capital. And correctly has stated that the CBIC gave direction around institutions meeting banks in general. Initially, a few years ago, the banks were required to ensure that they have a core capital of 1B. And last year, there was a clamor to have that improved to about 5 billion shillings. And then later on now, that's about 2 years ago, 5B. And then now is about 10 billion shillings. But you do recall the kind of heat it generated. And I remember it even went to Parliament, a lot of law from our cousins, the banking sector. So they are given, especially the smaller ones, a period of up to 5 to 10 years probably to be able to make this good. I'd like to point out that Stima Sacco's core capital is more than 13 billion Kenyan shillings, 13B. So whatever regulation that has been put forward for the banks by CBK, we achieved that a long time ago. And indeed, it is true. Right? If you look at the size of our asset base, at 56 billion in asset base, we are larger than most of the banks in Kenya. And if Stima was a bank, we are a tier 2 in the country. Having said that, and I've always said that over and over again, it has never been our desire, it has never been our wish to be anything else apart from Sacco. We do believe, and we've gone outside the country to benchmark, going to Canada, going to the US, looking at Saccos that have more than 22 trillion in asset base. The largest Sacco in Canada has about 7 trillion shillings in asset base. And typically come back to Kenya, look at the biggest bank, slightly above 1 trillion in asset base. So it tells us that there's room for us to grow as a Sacco. So despite a very impressive numbers that we do have, despite very impressive in terms of our liquidity ratios, despite having made all our key ratios that are put there in terms of core capital ratios, institutional ratios, as would have been expected for any large financial institution, including a bank, we still think that Stima Sacco is modern, and we think in terms of the size that we are in, we are doing something that is very right and very good. And like I've mentioned, we're doing this for our members. So we're excited to have grown to who we are. We would not have grown without our 200,000 plus members that we currently have. Each and every one of them has contributed a shilling here, a shilling there. There are more than 220,650 members currently who contribute to us, whatever amount of money that they contribute to us. And we are happy to have that kind of numbers. And we do expect, even as you come near the AGM, to be able to give some very good news for our members who I know are anticipating that final day that is going to come. In the sector in general, I also know Saccos are doing generally. I have looked at the numbers of most of our peers in the industry. It is very healthy. When you look at the 2080, especially the ones who control 80% of the industry, we are doing exceptionally well. Maybe for disclosure purposes, Stima Sacco as a deposit-taking Sacco has a 7% stake in the industry. So we control 7% of the total deposit-taking Sacco industry, obviously. Basically, you're looking at growing that to about 10%. We're also looking at growing to more than 120 billion shillings, probably in the next 5 years or so. As I'd mentioned to you, we do our strategic plan in place, and we're also looking at enhancing the kind of income that we are growing currently to something that is much larger and be shared with our members. The date is yet to be set, but anytime between 28th and 14th, again, we're looking at the modalities and the clearance that we need from the regulator.
All right, looking forward. One more question here. Someone is asking, they're in diaspora. Can they join and how?
Oh, definitely. We have very many diaspora members, more than 6,000 members in the diaspora. A majority of them are in the US. We have very many members in Europe. We have members in Dubai, quite a big chunk of them. Actually, in every continent, we do have members. We have members in South America, China, Australia, many members around Africa. So yes, as a diaspora member, you're more than welcome to join the Sacco. And all you need to do is just to go to our website. You can be able to get a form that you'll be able to fill. There's an email that is actually there, or even a WhatsApp platform that does exist that you're able to ask any queries around, and it'll be able to guide you in terms of how to join. And membership is just the same, whether in the diaspora or here in Kenya. So the requirements I talked about in terms of membership, in terms of member deposits, in terms of the shareholding, in terms of the registration fee, atubagui, whether in the diaspora or in Kenya, we treat you as equal. So feel free to join us. I just ask you to go through to our website, and you'll be able to get all the details that you'll require to become a member of the students.
We have a lot of questions, so perhaps you'll organize a follow-up spaces to tackle a few more questions. So there's generally a high interest in terms of Saccos and understanding them a bit better. I think it's interesting that someone is a member of a Sacco and they didn't know some of these basics. So I think it's very nice to remind them once again what Saccos are. And perhaps you can do that after results, and then you can take us through maybe the financials and give us a breakdown precisely on some of the key numbers that people should pay attention to. Because I'm looking at the 2023 results and there are really interesting numbers there. One of them that I've noted very keenly is the delinquency ratio. The NPL ratio is around 5%. The banking sector NPL is around 16 or so percent. It's pretty impressive how Saccos managed to handle credit risks. I think that's a very important thing to discuss a lot about Saccos and handling credit risk, and maybe how the cooperative structure of Saccos helps to diffuse a bit of the high risk lending that is there, perhaps among banks. What's your take on that?
I can already see you have the numbers with you. The Sacco sector, 12% on average. Stima, we are at the 5% now. So it tells you that there's something that we understand about the business. And like I've mentioned, it's not just about loading into our members. It is really working into a partnership together. And also looking at the variety of kind of products that you do have, so that you're able to take care of the members' needs without necessarily overburdening them. And you're a listening and caring institution. And very key, we do carry out surveys, either for stakeholders, people who do business with us, and also importantly for our members. And they give us a lot of feedback. And even during the member education that we do every year, it's not just an yearly event, it's a monthly event. The kind of discussion we're having here today on a monthly basis, we do have that with our members. We do have webinars that we normally run, and we allow our members to ask all these questions, give us the areas that they think we're not doing well, and areas of improvement. And all this is what is lending to that delinquency ratio of about 5% compared with the banking sector, which is around 16%. So I generally say that when you look at the Sacco sector, your money is pretty much safe, very much so. And specifically for Stima, I would urge any one of you to go to our website. And even as you go to this AGM for this year, would be able to provide that. But more importantly than that, we normally offer immediately after the AGM what you call an investor's brief, whereby we'd be able to call, and I hope Mwango you'll be there this time.
Make sure we're there.
Let you as the bigger stakeholders, the Fifth Estate, the media, everyone is there. Our shareholders, the biggest shareholders will be invited. Our delegates, some of them are invited. Any person who has any interest, we ask them to be able to query and to question, because sometimes because of the nature of our AGM, which is a delegate system, sometimes the members will not get to interact in greater detail around our financials. So we're very open, and we're the only Sacco in Kenya, in Africa, who actually do that, is to have an investor brief immediately after the AGM, whereby now we go into the numbers and we give you the insights of how our kitchen actually looks like and how the growth is actually made. We look forward to actually disclosing that to our membership. And we also ask you whether you're a member or a non-member, go to our website, check our financials, check for the last 5 years, check the kind of trends that we have. We've been here for 50 years. We are excited. Actually, we celebrated our 50th anniversary last year. We're very excited towards the next 50 as well. So even looking forward, we're looking forward to bigger things. And despite the numbers that you're looking there, we are looking at actually moving even further. We're looking at a growth in terms of our asset base, a growth in terms of our branch network. We currently have 12. We think we can multiply this by even 15 or more. We are looking at the kind of products we are offering, always asking yourselves, is there something that is missing out from the membership that you can be able to provide? We do not want you as a member to go anywhere. We believe any service, we believe any financial product that you need, you should be able to get it at Stima Sacco. And we do hope that you can be able to provide that to you in a way that is beneficial to yourselves as well. Yeah.
You've been in this space for a while, so I just want to ask you a very interesting question. How can someone make the most of being a member of a Sacco? Like, how can they optimize that? What can they do to make sure that they are in good standing and they're actually using as many products as possible, perhaps as a member of Stima Sacco?
You start with the most basic thing. The most basic thing is to have financial discipline, live within your means. The grass always looks greener on the other side. As human beings, you also admire and note what other people have. But when it comes to financials, you need to look at yourself as a person and ask yourself, number one, do I even need to borrow? And I know this might sound interesting, controversial, because we're in a business credit. But the first question I'll ask is, truly, do you need to borrow? Why are you borrowing? For what purpose? And are you borrowing for consumption? Are you borrowing for investment? Exactly what? Are you borrowing for? So you need to ask yourself that question. So although Saccos provide very affordable interest rates, I've mentioned 9%. You had me mention 12%. These are the kind of rates you get in a Sacco. The banks will give you 20 to 24%. But it is not an excuse for you to go on a borrowing spree. Let me start with the younger people. Before you borrow to buy a car, could you borrow for something else? Borrow for a house, for example. There are many affordable mortgages outside there. Could you borrow to construct? Could you borrow to buy a plot of land somewhere? Could you borrow for investment? I'm borrowing this money so that I can invest it somewhere. So these are the kind of thinkings that you need to have. Don't borrow because everybody around you is driving the latest, I don't know what is the latest model of vehicles people love. Back in our days, we used to love to borrow twin turbo engine vehicles. And that was the desire then to go ahead and borrow for a vehicle. The vehicle is a liability for you. So ask yourself, before I borrow for this liability, are there other things I'm able to do? So my first advice is for you to optimize the saving culture of Saccos. If you can put aside 20, I have members like that. Put aside 20, put aside 50 bucks religiously. But then, can I mention something? I tend to think that we people who have nice suits, nice ties, work in lovely offices, generally, we are not good savers as compared to the people who are in informal sector. You'd be surprised, the person in mtaani who's, the cobbler is shining shoes, kuna mwingine anachoma fish mahali pale, akona biashara yake, ana hustle yake. These people religiously, you see that example I was giving you of 100 books? It's not just an academic thing I'm saying, it's factual. I have individuals selling 20, 100. Now they're doing 500 bob a day. For you, if you're given 500 bob right now, probably nasingilia mtu yote. Ili chapa kidogo sana. So very quickly utakimbia, kuna kiatu hapa, ama kuna lunch mahali, ama kuna something ambayo pesa itaharibika. But if you had these 100 bob or 200 bob shillings here, the one that we like betting with, kitu ingine ni our young people are very good at doing. Hii chapa, instead of kuweka kwa betting, sijui bet manu, sijui nani, that money is better placed in a Sacco whereby the 100 bob, the 20 bob, the 50 bob, religiously put it aside. You'd be surprised at the value you can be able to grow in. So my advice would be, and that's why I'm talking about financial discipline, number one. Number two, sitamani sana ya mwingine. Jiangalie we mwenyewe, jibebe mwenyewe. Chukua loan ambao utajenga, something that can assist you, can help you. And then you borrow for a purpose. Don't borrow because there's a party on Saturday and I need to borrow some money. I need to look good. Sijakataa lazima ung'are, lazima ujipatie poni kwa mwili. But reality, for what purpose are you doing this borrowing for? That's very fundamentally critical. It is the basics that will propel you to be a better member. And then we talk about these things like we discussed around who are these people you're guaranteeing, so that you also do not want a liability that you do not need. Look around you. Look at the friends that you have. Look at the colleagues you have around you. Are these the people you want to associate with? Are these the people you want to guarantee with? Again, if you're able to do that, can actually build you. But importantly, for you to grow, you must have something. And this is the difference between ourselves and any other financial institution. We insist on saving. So save. You'd be surprised. This 9,000 becomes 90K. This 90K becomes 900,000. 900,000 becomes 9 million. But also importantly for me is the aspect of compounding what you're earning. So imagine if you have about 10K and you're getting a 15% return every year. That 15% return is how much? Quick math, 15% is about what, 1,500 every year? And then from there, you can be able to put this money back. It keeps on earning over. If you have 100,000 shillings, you're getting 15,000 return every year. Instead of withdrawing this 15K, why don't you say, let me add on my 100,000 book another 15,000 shillings? Because by the end of that year, again, you'll get 15% of the 115K. Again, you add that, keep on compounding it. And whatever small amount of money excess you might get, if you get an allowance here, when kia kadil hapo, weka hiyo pesa kwa Sacco, itakujenga. So the best way therefore to become a better Sacco member is to understand the saving principle before the credit. Don't come to a Sacco to borrow. Please come to a Sacco first and foremost to save. Come to a Sacco to invest in terms of your share capital. Come to a Sacco, then after that, only then can you say, do I truly need to borrow? And for what purpose, as I've pointed out, do I actually need to? If you are to do that, you're in good books. Number two, take these educations. Mango Capital, thank you so much. You're doing actually the principle of being in a Sacco board member educated. That's very critical for us. So anytime, ask questions. There's no silly question anywhere. Uliza maswali, keep on asking. If you don't get it, don't let it pass by. Keep on asking. If you get a platform like this, uliza maswali, do follow-ups with us, get our email address, get our telephone numbers, visit us, participate in our webinars, so that you can get as much information as possible in terms of how you can build yourself. And I know once you do that, I can guarantee you, I have members like I've mentioned who have been in this Sacco, founder members, 1974 until now. Wow. I have members who are more than 90 years of age, still with this Sacco. Just like I have that 6-month-old baby who is also a member. You can go through that process, understand our products, understand the kind of education you're giving, the financial literacy. I assure you, there's no better time to start than now. If you didn't start yesterday, start now.
Thank you so much. We've really pushed almost 2 hours now, and there is a lot of questions coming. So I think I would have to put a natural pause there and give you the chance to give a closing thought in terms of what you would want people to take away. Invite them to the Stima Sacco to be a member, and perhaps the AGM too, so that they can listen in.
Stima Sacco is the second largest Sacco in Africa. We are soon to be the largest Sacco in Africa. We have a timeline of less than 2.5 years to do that. Quite recently, Stima Sacco came up with a new strategic plan, our 2025 to 2029 strategic plan. Our vision is to empower you as our members for life. Our mission is that we are here to redefine sustainable socio-economic wellness. That is our mission. That's it. It's about you as a member. And then how can we redefine this for you and provide for you socio-economic wellness? We have 4 main core values, which I'd like to share with you. We call it STAR. STIR. STAR, fikiria ukipika uji na wewe unaikoroga ili you star. That's what tunafanya pamoja hapa Stima. So STAR means S for simplicity. I would love to eliminate complexity in how we communicate to you and how we deliver service to you. So simplicity is critical for us. Simple loan products, simple saving products, simple in terms of even the way you interact with us. So simplicity is very key. Secondly is trust. We will always act in good faith. We'll be reliable, we'll be truthful, and we'll support you and each other. And very closely related to staff is an element of integrity. It's about honesty and adherence to moral and ethical principles in all the interactions we have with you. And lastly, in terms of this core value called staff, is the responsiveness. We are here to listen, we care, we'll share knowledge, and we'll act responsibly as we have our engagement with you. Everything about us is about you as a member. It's one of our key pillars. Member in business development. As a member of Stima, you are the heart of all we do. That's what we care about. If it does not assist the member, if it is not centric to our member, then that is not part of our culture. We're ingraining a culture that everything and anything is about the member. And as we do that, we'll be leveraging a lot around technology so that you can be able to nurture and to create a relationship that transcends the physical relationship actually into a virtual relationship. We're also here to offer operational and service excellence to you, to a member. Everything that you undertake, I assure you, is about ensuring you have efficiency in terms of our processes, and you have convenience in terms of you accessing the services that you need to do so as a member. And good governance is very critical for us. That's a very important element of everything that we do. We are well known in terms of our delegates, the board, the people who work in Stima. Good governance is very, very important to us. Our people and our culture is also important. The staff that we have, we keep on hiring very competent staff to carry out our duties. You'll be surprised at the level of staffing that we have. And of course, the last one is about the financial sustainability. And this is a very key pillar of Stima. As I've mentioned, we were here 50 years ago, and we'd love to be here 50 years from now. We do have very big plans. We'd like to be the first Sacco to reach 100 billion in asset base. We have a target of almost 120 billion. We're looking at being the first Sacco to reach at least a revenue of 19 billion. That's by the year 2025. And even as I talk about this, it's not just about the numbers. You can imagine you're part and parcel of us. It also means the returns that you give to you are returns that will make a lot of sense. So again, join Stima Sacco. Stima Sacco is the Sacco to be at. We have proven it for the last 50 years, and we shall continue proving it for the next 50 years. We are here for the longevity of our members. If it does not in any way benefit you, we are not interested in doing it. We are here making sure that we are very much aware of the risks that we undertake. We take very calculated risks in any returns, in any business that we go into. You're not here as telling you we're going to give you returns of 30%. Hizo 30% zinakuwa za hewa kule nje. We are very careful to make sure that whatever we give to you, we can sustain it. Like I'm saying, we're looking for a relationship that is beyond now. When they look at you as a member, we're not looking at you to milk you for your money. We're looking at you as an owner of this institution, somebody that can help us grow from the very small circle that we were 50 years ago, this big entity that we are right now. And hopefully 50 years from now, whoever will be here as a CEO, as a board, as a delegate, would be able to showcase that Stima Sacco actually came very far. So be part and parcel of this winning Sacco. You're actually the best Sacco in Africa. Join us.
How long have you been CEO, by the way?
I've been CEO for 4 years, but I've been in Stima Sacco for a decade. I'm very excited to be part and parcel of this team, parcel of more than 55 people who serve you. So karibuni kabisa. Nashika mwenzako, mwambie siri ni kuwa member wa Sacco, na Sacco ni Stima Sacco.
So I'll finish with the word someone who goes by the handle KB's Enterprise. They say to Kwenda part 2. This was very informative. So it's over to you, Dr. Gamali. Seems like members want to hear more from you. But thank you so much for taking your time today to come and speak to us about Stima Sacco and Sacco as a whole. We hope to maybe have you after the financial results, and you can take us through maybe line by line about what the various aspects of the Saccos financial health look like, because you said you want to take us to the kitchen where you cook everything. So we want to come and see how the ingredients are mixed up and how they end up at the end of the day. It will be the first time we go through the financials of a Sacco. So I do hope that after the AGM, we'll be able to have you around. On that note, I want to thank the team from Mwango Capital. I see a couple of people in the audience, and very much thank you for making sure all the questions, everything in the background, they work hard to make sure the quality of the spaces is super high. I also want to thank this team from Stima Sacco. We've been planning to have this in a while, so this was really a pleasure having you. Hope to have you guys again.
Mambo mazuri, AGM reloading inakuja. Watch that space. And again, I'm very thankful. Thank you so much for hosting me in this session. I have seen a lot of feedback. Myself and the team will pick on all of this. I've seen some that are not answered, some are answered. We'll continue reaching out and continue engaging. And I truly look forward to part 2 of this engagement. Thank you so much. And definitely you'll get an invite. This is the invite actually for the investor brief. So we look forward to have that discussion post online with you and the rest of the team. I am very humbled, very thankful. Asanteni nyote ambao umeparticipate hapa leo. And I look forward again for you to become members of Stima. And those who are members of Stima, I look forward to continue engaging with us. Keep on holding us to a high standard so that you can always meet your expectation. Asante sana. Nashukuru. Thank you so much.